2025 was the best year for cycling in London since the COVID pandemic. 2026 is going to be even better. Hello and welcome back to London Cycle Routes. Today we're going to talk about the future of cycling in London. We're going to look at the new infrastructure that will be built across the city in 2026, cycle lanes, low traffic neighbourhoods and other schemes to unlock safe routes across London. Through tracking consultations, diving into council committee papers, sending FOI requests and asking around, I've built a detailed picture of what we can expect in the coming year, and there really is some very exciting stuff coming up. I'll also recap the new infrastructure built this year in 2025 and ask whether the year met expectations. And I had very high expectations for 2025, which I outlined in a video this time last year. The good news is that expectation was probably just about met, and we'll walk through exactly how in this video, though there were some disappointments too. First, some context. This is a map of all the cycle infrastructure in London, courtesy of the brilliant Safe Cycle London map. Thick blue lines are protected cycle lanes, shaded areas are areas without through traffic, also known as low traffic neighbourhoods. But let's see when this infrastructure was built. Here's everything built during the 2020 pandemic, the best year so far. Protected cycle lanes popped up on main roads, while low traffic neighbourhoods made large parts of the city cyclable for the first time. Together, these changes made a huge number of journeys possible on safe and comfortable routes without having to deal with heavy traffic. But progress definitely slowed in the years that followed, thanks to a TfL funding crisis, political backlash, and councils already having built everything in their project pipelines back in 2020. From 2021 through 2024, progress was still happening but much more plodding. This is everything built in 2025. It clearly isn't a return to 2020 levels of investment, but what's different about 2025 is that there are an unusually large number of projects still under construction at year end, added here in brown. And once you include the unusually high number of projects with spades in the ground, 2025 starts to look a lot better than the years we've had recently. That bodes well for the future, but before we get into the future, let's quickly run through the highlights of what was delivered this year. Regular viewers of the channel will be familiar with a lot of this, as I tend to cover new infrastructure in weekly videos. Hit subscribe on YouTube if that's something you'd be interested in seeing more of. For me, the most impressive new opening of 2025 was undoubtedly Newham Council's North Woolwich Road cycleway, which opened in full in 2025. You can see it here. It's a fantastic piece of infrastructure, creating a spine of protected lanes through a brand new residential area of London. Nearby, we also have the Beckton Corridor, which is a huge improvement on what came before and provides a high quality link from the Royal Docks to Beckton Town Centre. Also in Newham, TfL delivered new lanes on the Lower Lee Crossing, which opened at the start of the year, linking into new lanes at Canning Town, which opened last year. The council is also pretty much finished building a new cycle lane on Westfield Avenue in Stratford. The borough really has had a great year. Heading anti-clockwise through North London, Hackney has installed a new bus gate at Wiston Road, removing through traffic from a surprisingly large area south of the Regent's Canal and north of Hackney Road. Funnily enough, this intervention actually has the effect of filtering some streets that lie in the London borough of Tower Hamlets, whose administration is generally against this kind of thing. Just over the borough boundary, Islington has just about completed a new cycle lane on Boleyn Road and delivered a new low traffic neighbourhood at Mildmay, west of Dalston. This is significant because it's another incremental improvement to the always evolving Cycleway 1. Expect some videos on this channel showing off what that means for journeys in North London in the early new year. The same borough has also delivered a brilliant new cycle crossing over Essex Road that enables all sorts of new routes that I showed off in a video when it opened. One cool joint project between Islington and Camden delivered this year was the new permanent cycleway scheme on York Way here, creating yet another protected corridor up through North London and down into King's Cross. Meanwhile, Camden has completed cycle lanes on Crowndale Road, a decent expansion of its network that puts Mornington Crescent on the capital cycle network for the first time. But the borough's biggest triumph this year was a pedestrianised Camden High Street, not strictly a cycling scheme, though you can ride there when it's quiet, but something the area has been crying out for decades. Camden also delivered a couple of smaller schemes around Bucknell Street and Keeley Street that involved closing roads to through traffic. It also added more traffic filters around Leather Lane Market, removing through traffic from the area. Overall, it's a good haul. Westminster, which has traditionally punched well below its weight on cycling, surprised everyone by putting light segregated lanes on Sussex Gardens this year, basically overnight. These are notable for their unusual tulip design, which got some attention. It's also added a new cycle path and contraflow, filling the gap in the Regent's Canal path at Delamere Terrace, a small but significant intervention that will make a big difference and which campaigners have been calling for at least 20 years. We'll have a lot more to say about Westminster later in the video, and spoilers, it's good. In West London, 2025 was also the year we got Hammersmith Bridge back, at least if you're on a bike, and if you are on a bike, it's now better than ever and a crucial link over the river. Down south, Lambeth managed to deliver two decent-sized low-traffic neighbourhoods in Vauxhall Pleasure Gardens and Stockwell Gardens, making local journeys easier and removing through traffic from parts of the route of Cycleway 5. In December, it also removed traffic from Voltaire Road outside Clapham High Street Station, creating a nice new public space for outdoor socialising and creating a quiet cycle link too. Meanwhile, way up north, Enfield managed to deliver about a mile and a half of really nice looking path along the New River, which stretches almost up to the M25. It will connect to a path under construction up to Broxbourne and looks like a really nice day out, as well as a potential commuter route. Just in time for Christmas, Lewisham Council in South East London finished building new cycle lanes on Deptford Church Street, connecting Lewisham Town Centre to the rest of London's network for the first time. I covered that in a video earlier this month and I was really pleased with them. And also in the last days before Christmas, TfL finished building segregated cycle lanes on Lambeth Bridge and remodelling the junctions at either end. This creates yet another protected route over the Thames, bringing the total number in Inner London to 9.5, with the half being Chelsea Bridge, which only has segregation in one direction. A decade ago, there was just one set of protected lanes over the river on Southwark Bridge, and until the COVID pandemic, Southwark had been joined only by Blackfriars and Vauxhall. It's easy to forget how much progress has been made, though we do still need a bridge or tunnel or two in the east. Now, that's not a bad list of stuff for 2025, but there are a few things I expected to happen this year that didn't happen. These fall into two main groups. The first is things that are taking a bit longer to get sign-off than expected. Sometimes this is for political reasons. There are local elections in 2026 after all, and some councils are choosing to wait until they're out of the way. Sometimes it's for cash reasons. Councils are still generally being starved of cash by central government. Some are actually on the verge of bankruptcy. Lambeth, for example, had originally planned something like, depending on how you count, 7 low traffic neighbourhoods to go in this year. In the end, it put in 2, which, to be fair, is still more than any other borough. But the others are now expected in the second half of next year if the council administration can get its budget in order and survive the elections. More on those elections later. Hackney has also been dragging its feet a bit. The council did consult on 2 LTNs in 2025 in Dalston and Hoxton East, and its website still promises delivery of these schemes from summer 2025. It is obviously not summer 2025 now, or even autumn 2025 anymore. Islington has similarly been a bit slower with its LTNs than previously expected. Politics and the upcoming elections has probably played a role there. Brent also seems to have memory hold a plan for new traffic filters in Kilburn, and even Newham now says it doesn't have the funding for a scheme in Woodgrange and Capel. Not everything that didn't open this year is totally AWOL, however. The second category of missing stuff from the 2025 list is things that have started construction but where construction is taking a long time. And that's where all those under construction projects we saw at the beginning marked in brown come in, as well as an even longer list of projects about to start. This is where 2026 starts to look very interesting indeed. Let's sit back and take a look. Leading the charge in 2026, and I never thought I'd say this, is Westminster. Westminster controls a huge part of central London, and it has always been pretty disinterested in cycling. That changed a little when Labour won the council a few years ago, but what has really kicked them into gear is a new cabinet member for streets who took over in January and just really gets it. The list of projects we can expect next year is very long. The council has already begun construction on its new Cycleway 43 route from Hyde Park to Marylebone, which includes a filter at Stanhope Place and segregated lanes along George Street. Construction has also begun on the first phase of a new route into Soho from the north on Cleveland Street, which was consulted on years ago but just never got moving until now. But probably the most exciting project with spades in the ground in Westminster is Cycleway 51, which will create a safe route from Marylebone to Kilburn and beyond. In particular, it will include floating parking protected lanes on Hamilton Terrace, protected lanes on Harewood Avenue past Marylebone Station, and several safe crossings, including over the Marylebone Road. This is particularly exciting because routes northwest out of central London are currently incredibly limited. It will open up a lot of possibilities. Those are just the schemes on the ground already though, and the council also plans to start work on even more exciting stuff in the first half of 2026. The most exciting of these to me is Westbourne Terrace, which is getting segregated cycle lanes, effectively extending Cycleway 3 up past Paddington Station. The best bit of this scheme is that we will finally provide a safe cycle crossing under the Westway Road and up to the canal, and the newly two-way for bikes Delamere Terrace we mentioned earlier. On top of that, it'll connect to a new contraflow on Blomfield Terrace, linking it to the new Cycleway 51 lanes up Hamilton Terrace we talked about. It's a huge missing link in this part of London. These new contraflows are part of another brilliant thing Westminster is doing, which is a rolling programme of contraflows, permitting riding in both directions on quieter streets that are one way for cars. It's a common feature across lots of boroughs, but Westminster had always lagged behind. It's already done streets like Douglas Street near Vauxhall Bridge, but others are coming that will open up some genuinely good new routes, like Vincent Square for a route into Victoria. Soho especially will also become easier by bike with two-way cycling on, for example, Greek Street. That is not all. Another excellent scheme Westminster will be proceeding with in the new year is protected lanes on Portland Place, which have been proposed on and off for about a decade. This is an incredibly important corridor for getting into central London to the top of Regent Street from Camden and beyond, and it will finally be getting some infrastructure with potential for further links into central London in the future. In 2026, Westminster will also build protected lanes on Abingdon Street, connecting Parliament Square to the new cycle lanes TfL has just built on Lambeth Bridge, together creating a new route towards the Houses of Parliament from the south and east. Westminster has also consulted on new protected lanes on Bayswater Road to the north of Hyde Park, linking to the existing cycleway 3 lanes there, right up to the border of Kensington and Chelsea, which refused to cooperate on taking them further. They're also at the early stages of consulting on a route across Marylebone from Hyde Park to Camden's bit of central London, though I'd be surprised if this happens next year. Whether Labour holds Westminster past the May elections also remains to be seen. Some of this stuff, notably the Hamilton Terrace part of C51, is programmed for construction after the elections. The party is down a lot in the national polls, which affects how people vote in local government elections, and the council was always a difficult one for them to win, though the Tories, their main opposition there, don't seem to have recovered either, so we'll see what happens. Even if they don't hold it though, we should get a lot of new stuff in the first half of 2026. If they do get another 4 years, at this pace, central London will be absolutely transformed by the end of the decade. The other borough that controls a lot of central London is Camden. They've been one of the best boroughs on cycling for a long time, and they are not resting on their laurels in 2026. Westminster's Portland Place cycle lanes to the top of Regent Street will also come tantalisingly close to linking up to a brilliant Camden scheme which is planned to start construction in early 2026 on Albany Street to the east of Regent's Park, which will be getting protected lanes from its north end at the Parkway Junction near Camden Town right down to the southern end near the Marylebone and Euston roads. That southern junction pictured here will remain hairy for now, and it'll be up to TfL to improve it in the future as it's a road that they control. But Camden already has longer term plans to rebuild the Parkway Junction at the north end. Probably not next year, but we may see designs. I hear they are very good. Even without the junction rebuild, this scheme down Albany Street will make a big difference though. Early in 2026, Camden will also start building its first section of what promises to be one of London's best and most important cycleways. Eventually, this will run with protected lanes from the rebuilt Old Street roundabout in the east, down Clerkenwell and Theobald's roads, into New Oxford Street in the west. Islington is still drawing up its plans for the bit in the east, and the bit in the west, which is also part of Camden, is dependent on removing the Holborn Gyratory, a future major project that requires support from TfL. Even without the other sections though, the bit under construction next year will provide a new protected link from Cycleway 6 on Saffron Hill to the existing protected lanes on Gray's Inn Road, as you can see on the map. It's also already a hugely busy cycle route without any infrastructure, and once the whole thing is done, it's probably going to be the busiest route in London, rivaling Embankment. Camden will also start construction in early 2026 on the first part of its plans for a cross-Camden cycleway. This first section is quite short and will make Pratt Street largely traffic-free, linking to the existing lanes on Pancras Way to its east. Eventually, this whole cycleway will run along Delancey Road, through the redesigned Parkway Junction we talked about, and along Prince Albert Road up to the border of Westminster in the west. And yes, the newly reformed Westminster Council has already published an outline consultation on plans to take it further west through its territory, connecting to Cycleway 51 at Hamilton Terrace. That would be amazing. Camden is also collaborating nicely with Westminster at the northern end of Hamilton Terrace. In 2026, it will build its northern section of Cycleway 51 all the way up to West Hampstead. This will be an on-carriageway, quiet way route without protected lanes, but the streets will be made quiet with a new modal filter closing the road to traffic at the railway bridge on Kilburn Priory. Elsewhere in Camden, the council should finish the construction of the permanent protected cycle lanes up Haverstock Hill and we'll hopefully see the early designs for the next phase to take this scheme up into the centre of Hampstead, which has been mentioned in various documents. More immediately, Camden will also start construction on protected lanes on Shaftesbury Avenue up to the borough boundary with Westminster. This will effectively extend the cycle lanes currently running on Gower Street and Bloomsbury Way through to the Charing Cross Road near Leicester Square Tube Station. My dream is that one day Westminster will extend these down its bit of Shaftesbury Avenue through Piccadilly Circus, down Piccadilly and meet Cycleway 3 at Hyde Park Corner. And finally for Camden, elsewhere in the borough, construction will start on upgraded protected lanes on Goods Way in King's Cross, replacing the existing wand protection with curbs. The other big local authority covering central London is the City of London. The city has a good reputation and it does some good stuff, like removing general traffic from the Bank Junction last year, but when it comes to cycling, its projects this year are actually less ambitious than both Camden and Westminster. The city is currently rebuilding the St Paul's Gyratory, and by autumn 2026 the current phase of works should be completed, with a section of segregated lane added, improving links to the already through traffic free Cheapside. The best thing about the St Paul's project is actually not cycling related though, and will come in 2027 when they create a large pedestrian square called Greyfriars Square, which looks pretty awesome and will apparently be the largest public space in the square mile. One small but important change in the city in 2026 will be the reopening of Arthur Street at the northern end of London Bridge. Arthur Street has been closed for years as a construction site for TfL's Bank Station Capacity Upgrade project, and according to traffic orders just published, it will reopen in January, but only to bikes and pedestrians. This will create a traffic-free link for northbound cyclists going over London Bridge down to Cycleway 3 on Upper Thames Street, which is at a different level. The bridge runs over the road. Southbound cyclists can already use Fish Street Hill to go up onto the bridge from C3. Nearby, we should also see designs for improvements to the Monument Junction at the north end of London Bridge, though construction on this is likely to be a way off. The city is unfortunately moving quite slowly on a couple of other promising projects. Previously consulted on ideas for protected cycle lanes on Queen Victoria Street have been paused, according to the corporation's committee papers, awaiting guidance from the Department for Transport on how to build bus stops, a problem other boroughs haven't seemed to run into. They're also working on a really exciting low traffic neighbourhood around Barbican that will remove traffic from a lot of routes, including crucial east-west route Beach Street, which was temporarily filtered during the COVID pandemic, but for some reason that isn't coming back again until 2028, according to the city's work programme. Islington's bit of central London will also be getting some love in 2026, with a new traffic filter under construction at St John Street. This will create an impressive new public space near Smithfield Market and the Fabric nightclub, but also remove through traffic from the streets to the east of Farringdon Station and south of Clerkenwell Road. Islington is also likely to deliver more filters further north in the borough. By the end of the year there should be an LTN going in around Annette Road near Holloway Road Station. There should also be a small new LTN called the Cally going in at Blundell Road east of York Way. This will create the first phase of an east-west route across the borough, though it sounds like we'll have to wait until 2027 for the much larger Barnsbury and Laycock LTN to continue that to the east. That latter one to me is one of the most exciting projects in London. Hackney has a pretty big scheme with spades in the ground already, a big rebuilding of Amherst Road, including a bus gate to prevent through traffic and a lot of greening. Combined with other infrastructure in the area, this will create a new way of cycling a bit further into Hackney Central from the north without mixing with heavy traffic. It should look really nice when it's done. The council is also promising 3 new cycle crossings nearby, which were consulted on this year and hopefully will be delivered in 2026. When they go in, they will make it significantly easier to dodge some of the busier roads and connect up different low traffic neighbourhoods. Another nice little scheme due in Hackney in spring 2026 is a new cycle crossing and route along Bradstock Road, linking existing underappreciated cycle lanes on Wick Road to the shared paths on Wells Street Common, and hopefully making local trips a little bit easier. There's also this question mark currently hanging over 2 very important Hackney schemes mentioned earlier in the video. The first, Dalston LTN, will remove through traffic from a large area to the east of the A10. That will create a safe link up to Waltham Forest. This is really crucial because Waltham Forest has a huge, high quality cycle network that is somewhat marooned from the rest of the capital, which this will fix. It's basically of strategic importance for the whole city. The project has been consulted on and was meant to happen this year. It didn't, but I'd be surprised if it didn't happen in 2026, as the council does sound committed. The second missing in action scheme meant to go in 2025 is Hoxton East LTN, which has the potential to remove through traffic from the north-south Cycleway 1 route and also open up east-west routes across this bit of the borough around Hoxton. I'm hoping the design of this one is revised from the one that was consulted on, as local campaigners have pointed out that it has a few holes in it and could even make the cycleway busier if it's not slightly amended. Fingers crossed that that is what the delay is about in this case. Way up north in Enfield, the council has started construction on some improvements to Enfield town centre, which at some point will involve more segregated cycle lanes and modal filters around Enfield town, though it's not clear exactly when that phase will be built, so I'll put the cycling infrastructure in that project down as a 2026 maybe. Elsewhere in North London, Harrow has already started building its rather decent Harrow to Pinner cycleway and is providing very nice construction updates on its website, which not all boroughs do. Harrow isn't a council that's done a lot of infrastructure before, so it is great to see them getting in on the action, and I can't wait to ride it when it's finished, as North West London can frankly use all the infrastructure it can get. Hopefully Brent can get in on the action too. This year they consulted on some new cycle crossings which will improve the route between Kilburn and Willesden, and I don't see why they couldn't be built in 2026. Meanwhile, swinging to the northeast, Waltham Forest is a borough that is no stranger to building lots of infrastructure. They're ticking along nicely and gradually building out cycle lanes on the eastern section of Forest Road in phases. More sections will open in 2026, though I'm not sure whether it'll all be done this year or not, as it's quite a big project. Typically of Waltham Forest, the designs are incredibly high quality. There are a few projects like this that are going to take multiple years and not necessarily be finished in 26. Another notable example is Newham's Romford Road corridor. This is a seriously impressive scheme that, when finished, will effectively be an extension of Cycleway 2 past Stratford all the way to Ilford. That's almost as long as the existing Cycleway 2 again, except unlike the existing Cycleway 2, it'll actually be really good quality with protected junctions and continuous segregated lanes. A small section of this was finished this year, and further phases will be constructed in 2026. I doubt the whole thing will be done by this time next year as it's such a big project, but even the intermittent sections should prove useful to people taking trips down this corridor. To really link properly into Ilford, this scheme requires Redbridge Council to the east to deliver a scheme for protected lanes and crossings that they have on their books at Ilford Garden Junction. I doubt that will happen in 2026, but one Redbridge scheme that might is on Cambridge Park in Wanstead, which was consulted on in 2023. When I sent an FOI to the council back in July, they said they were working on the final designs with TfL, so hopefully this nice protected lane scheme linking Wanstead town centre into neighbouring Waltham Forest's great cycle network will be constructed in 2026. Going back to Newham for a second, there's another scheme we can expect to finish there in 2026. TfL are actually building protected cycle lanes right up to the northern Silvertown Tunnel bike bus stop near City Hall. One of my criticisms of the bike bus, which I covered in a video when it launched, was that it's a bit tricky to actually get to by bike, so this is definitely welcome. Elsewhere in Newham, the council is currently building segregated lanes on Leighton Road, which will provide a safe link from the existing protected lanes at Stratford Town Centre towards the north, shown here in dark blue. This scheme will also improve the route of Cycleway 16, bypassing the current bodge of shared infrastructure on Chobham Road. Elsewhere in East London, Barking and Dagenham should be building a short stretch of protected cycle lane on Dagenham Heathway past the tube station in 2026, which will make cycling in the town centre easier. It's quite a short scheme, so hopefully it can be extended in the future to link up with more existing routes in the area. Jumping to the other side of the city, West London is also getting a bunch of new infrastructure in the coming year. Hammersmith and Fulham are currently building protected cycle lanes up Wood Lane, linking Shepherd's Bush up to White City and eventually the path along the Westway. The council said in October that works would take 15 weeks, which would be very speedy and imply an early 2026 completion date. I'm slightly sceptical of those timings, as last time I visited there hadn't been a huge amount of progress, but it should be completed this coming year. Also in Hammersmith and Fulham, TfL's most recent investment committee papers say that Hammersmith Road up to Kensington Olympia will be getting a proper cycle track, with construction starting early to mid 2026. This would effectively be an extension of the brilliant Cycleway 9, replacing the slightly ropey wands that you have to use east of Hammersmith Tube Station currently. I haven't seen any designs of this project yet, so I wouldn't be surprised if the committee papers are overstating the timetable a bit, but it's great news that this is on the agenda because it's a logical next step for Cycleway 9. Now they just need to find a way to get C9 down Kensington High Street. The western end of Cycleway 9 unfortunately isn't so lucky this year. We've been waiting for the next section from Brentford to Syon Park for a couple of years now, but TfL only expects to complete detailed design of the project in the second half of 2026. Intriguingly, this project seems to be a victim of the recent cyber attack on TfL, and the committee papers say, slightly cryptically, business recovery following the cyber incident and requirement for third-party survey data impacted the schedule. Also in West London, Hounslow is currently building a protected cycle lane on Southall Lane, which will improve links to Heathrow Airport from the north, particularly useful for the many people who work at the airport. It's not a game changer on its own as it's a bit isolated, but there are a lot of longer term plans for other schemes in the area improving links to the airport. I'd definitely like to do some videos showing off routes to the airport, as I know it's a major employer and I'm just waiting for some of those schemes to go live before I do so. Ealing also has a few projects in the works. The most imminent is its good plan to extend Hounslow's existing cycle lanes on Boston Manor Road up to Hanwell from the south. This was consulted on in 2024 and construction was due to start in April 2025, so it may actually already be done, but I've not been able to get out there to confirm its status. A bit further south, Richmond Council has given the green light to new cycle lanes on Hospital Bridge Road. This scheme should make it easier to travel by bike to a nearby school and links to existing cycle paths along Chertsey Road. Construction was expected to start in 2025, but it doesn't seem to have done so, so expect it in 2026. Across the river, Kingston Council has finally started work to complete 2 cycleways that have been lying half finished for a number of years. As I understand it, they were paused after the council spent the funding allocated for them and then got into a fight with TfL about whether it could have more. The first of these routes, Cycleway 29, will link Tolworth to Surbiton and to Kingston's wider network, while the other, Cycleway 32, will provide protected lanes on the main road between New Malden and Kingston. This latter one is particularly exciting as it'll finally mean a safe route between Kingston and Wimbledon, 2 major town centres in this part of London. Both schemes are due to be finished by mid to late 2026 if all goes to plan. Moving across South London, there are 2 great schemes under construction in Wandsworth due to finish in 2026. The first is on 9 Elms Lane, where TfL are building high quality protected cycle tracks linking the new Battersea Power Station development up to Vauxhall and the rest of London's cycle network. It'll also connect to the existing cycle lanes on Thessaly Road, improving links to central London from places like Clapham and Stockwell. This one's a long time coming. It was delayed most recently after the council got into a fight with TfL over developer funding, and it's due to be completed by autumn 2026. The second scheme under construction in Wandsworth is on Queenstown Road. This will create high quality protected lanes on the approach to Chelsea Bridge, which connects nicely to Cycleway 8 on the northern embankment of the Thames going into Westminster. The council is also talking about extending this scheme southwards towards Clapham Common in the future, which would be very cool and create a useful north-south axis through the borough, though that'll be one for future years. Lambeth also has plans for 2026, in particular new low traffic neighbourhoods. A pair of new LTNs either side of Kennington Road, Walnut Tree Walk and Kennington Triangle will remove through traffic from Cycleway 5 and Cycleway 7 respectively, as well as other useful streets like Brook Drive. A new LTN at Wyville between South Lambeth Road and Wandsworth Road will improve another part of Cycleway 5. Slade Gardens LTN will also remove through traffic from a large area north of Brixton between Brixton Road and Stockwell Road. These 4 LTNs were due this year, but Lambeth's budget crisis has pushed them back to next year, likely the second half after local elections in May. The council has got some ring-fenced funding from TfL to create them. Lambeth also has other LTNs and traffic filters in the pipeline at Angeltown, Myattsfields and around Waterloo. Any of these could also potentially appear in 2026 too, but I'm less sure of the timelines for them. Myattsfields in particular I think is unlikely to happen soon, as it is a very large project and we're yet to see any designs for it. Turning to cycle lanes, Lambeth's Rosendale Road Cycleway is also being extended in 2026 down into West Dulwich, which will create a nice link from the south of the borough through to the rest of London's cycle network, as well as connecting to West Norwood Town Centre. There's also a major TfL scheme under construction on Streatham Hill, consisting of 1 kilometre of protected cycle lanes, as well as traffic filters on some of the side streets leading into it. This will be great when it's done, but it won't be ready until 2027. Other cycleway plans mentioned in Lambeth's strategy documents on Cold Harbour Lane in Brixton and Kennington Road don't seem to have materialised yet, probably because of the council's money issues. Hopefully we'll hear more about designs for them soon. Lambeth's neighbouring South London borough Southwark should also build a few things in 2026. Construction is already underway on a new cycle lane along Islington Road, which will create a safe link from Peckham in the direction of Cycleway 4 and Rotherhithe. This is a real missing link, will enable lots of new routes and should be finished early in the new year. Probably the biggest thing Southwark is doing in 2026 is a collection of schemes in Peckham. The council consulted on plans for cycle lanes alongside Peckham Rye Park and up through the Peckham Gyratory, meeting the buses only section of Rye Lane from the south. Construction should take place in 2026, with the section along the park starting first. This scheme also includes a bus gate and extra filters on side roads, which is a nice bonus, plus an improved cycle lane on the busier bit of Rye Lane where it meets Peckham High Street. This route, which TfL are calling Cycleway 35, is really important, as it extends an already safe and comfortable corridor that starts at Cycleway 10 and Burgess Park in the north, further south into the borough. There are also longer term aspirations to take this route even further south in the direction of Catford, but we haven't seen plans for that section yet. Southwark also has separate plans for a short link between Cycleway 10 and Cycleway 4 at Bermondsey Spa, which will be built in 2026. The borough has also consulted on new filters in the area south of London Bridge, which will reduce traffic on cycleways 10 and 14. These might get the go-ahead in 2026, or they could end up being one for 2027. Excitingly, we should also see similar proposals for other areas of the borough like Camberwell and Walworth, but we don't know the details yet. South East London should see a bit of progress too next year. Lewisham Council has got funding for 2 new low traffic neighbourhoods. The first will remove through traffic around St John's and Tanner's Hill, just northwest of Lewisham Station. The second would be around Kender Street between New Cross and Peckham. We've not seen any formal designs for these schemes yet, and they're yet to be consulted on, but locals seem to think there's a reasonable chance that they could be delivered later next year. Put these down as a maybe. Greenwich Council also has some exciting proposals in the pipeline. The main thing they're due to build in 2026 is a small but important cycle link through Greenwich Town Centre, which the council is calling an interim cycle connection. This is due in the autumn, and it'll involve protected cycle lanes along the northern arm of the town centre gyratory at College Approach and a new cycle path linking Thames Street and Welland Street. The effect will be to fill a gap in Cycleway 4, which currently requires you to cycle along the Riverside path and then dismount at Cutty Sark Gardens. In the longer term, the council wants to actually remove part of the gyratory and create more public space, which will be great for the town centre. Greenwich is also home to one of the most impressive projects in the whole of London, where TfL is extending Cycleway 4 down the main road from Charlton to Woolwich High Street. This is currently under construction, but it's so big it won't be finished until at least 2027, although it'll be amazing when it's done, along with the interim cycle connection letting you cycle on protected lanes all the way from Woolwich to London Bridge and then further onwards into the rest of London. I'll be honest, I follow this stuff very closely all year round and was aware of all these projects in isolation, but until I did the research for this video, I haven't clocked just how much stuff is going to be built in 26. If even half of this infrastructure is delivered next year, it's going to easily surpass 2025 as the best year for new infrastructure since the pandemic. It's particularly exciting, I think, because we'll have both traditionally good boroughs, but also boroughs that haven't always been so great, making improvements across the board. There are some possible challenges coming up. There are local elections in all London boroughs in May. The results of these elections could potentially spook and deter councils from continuing with investment, though I think most of the stuff I've talked about in this video is pretty nailed on, unless otherwise noted. Depending on how dramatic the results are, we might even see council administrations change party, with Westminster and its ambitious programme being one obvious possible casualty. If there are any changes of party control, it's worth saying that it's quite difficult to generalise about Labour, the Liberal Democrats and even the Greens when it comes to the extent of their support for new infrastructure, because it does depend by area and local group. All three of those parties have some really supportive and some less supportive politicians in them, sometimes even in the same council ward. Reform, as far as anyone knows, are uniformly anti, and the Tories also usually tend to be pretty anti too, or at best disinterested. Boris Johnson, who was very supportive, was a bit unusual. Even if a borough doesn't change party hands, it's common for local leaderships to change within parties after elections, and different factions and figures vying for control can have different levels of commitment to active travel. That could also be a factor. Whatever the results in May, they are not going to be down to cycling. With only very occasional exceptions, local election results tend to broadly track the national polls, and the councils that we've talked about in this video that are run by Labour, which is all of them except for Kingston and Richmond, which are Lib Dem, are going to have a very difficult set of local elections, no matter what they've done locally, simply because the government is very unpopular for reasons that have nothing to do with cycling in London. But that's for another day. The bottom line is that 2026 is going to be an exceptionally good year for cycling in London, better than this year, which was already good and probably the best since the pandemic. 2027 is already looking pretty good too. That is down to persistent campaigners, shrewd councillors, smart council officers and people at TfL all working hard to make this stuff happen, often against loud and well-resourced opponents, hysterical media coverage and simple status quo bias. But it's also down to everyone who's ridden a bike in the city, whether you are a daily road bike commuter or partial to an occasional hop on an e-bike. You've shown that if they build it, you will come. Thank you so much for watching this video. It took a very long time to put together, but I thought it was important to do it as nobody else puts this information in one place. Make sure you hit subscribe on the channel as I post new videos every week documenting new infrastructure as it comes out and showing how it fits together into safe and comfortable routes. I'll be making videos of everything mentioned in this video when it goes live. If you really like what we're doing on the channel and you want to help support it, I will leave a link to the London Cycle Routes Patreon below where you can throw money at me. Thank you so much to everyone on the Patreon already. This channel wouldn't be able to happen without you. Let me know what you think of today's video in the comments. I will see some of you below the line and the rest of you next week. Goodbye.